identity, how we see ourselves shapes the actions that we take. But for behavior to shape identity, we have to choose who it is we want to be. Who do you want to be? I wrote about this in The Courage Gap. Decide the kind of person you want to be. There really is no more important decision you can ever make than deciding who it is you want to be. You mightn't feel like you're that person right now, but who is it that you would love to be? To quote Lily Tomlin, I always wanted to be somebody. I should have been more specific. So who is it that you want to be? Welcome to the Live Brave podcast. I'm Margie Warrell. Here you'll learn how to live and lead with more courage in an increasingly anxious world. If you'd love to bring your bravest self to your biggest challenges and the boldest vision for your life, you are in the right place. Let's get started. Hello there, it's Margie and welcome back to the first episode in this new Courage Work series on my Live Brave podcast. I'm glad you've joined me. Right now, nearly everyone I speak to is feeling some degree, if not a lot of overwhelm. Of course, right now it is December. It is the silly season. I know myself, I have 7 trips this month, 7 times getting on and off planes or on and off trains, 3 trips to New York from DC where I live. It's a busy, busy month. And so when you talk about the new year, that old adage of new year, new you, sends most people running the opposite direction. A lot of people don't want to take on some big momentous goal or set big, bold resolutions. And so this episode is your antidote to overwhelm while also really encouraging you to think about what is it that you could reset for the year ahead? What are some of the small little changes, or even just one small little change that you could make that would make a big difference over the course of the next 12 months and over the course of your life? So as you know, I wrote a book called The Courage Gap, which came out earlier this year. And in that book, I say that, the difference between what we are capable of doing and what we actually do, between our insight, our action, our potential, our performance, is widened by fear. Fear of failure, fear of not having what it takes. And in a world where a lot of people are feeling kind of anxious and kind of overwhelmed and there's a lot of uncertainty, really tapping into our own agency is what makes such a difference. But that doesn't mean we have to be deciding we're going to climb a mountain or write a book or build a business or change career. It could for you just mean one little thing that you're going to do to your life that actually makes it that little bit better. And that little bit better over time actually makes it a lot better. So let's get started on how you can do that. We're going to edit out that part. The fact is that change rarely arrives in sweeping declarations or grand resolutions. It happens in small wins that we stack day after day, small, little, brave choices that compound into big change over time. And so this episode is about you stepping into the new year on a strong footing and not a fragile footing, because you don't need a new life to begin living differently. You just need to start right where you are. Before we dive in, a quick note. If you're looking for a meaningful holiday gift for yourself, some reading over the break, or for someone that you love that you feel is holding themselves back or is maybe struggling in some way or just sells themselves short, then I have to do a big shameless plug here for The Courage Gap, which I really believe is a book that anyone and everyone in every season of life would find wisdom in, insight in, and inspiration. So you can buy it. I'll put a link in the show notes. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it wherever you purchase books, wherever you are in the world. Though you might have to order it if it's a local little bookseller that you like to support. They don't necessarily stock my book on every shelf. That's a goal for me. It's not yet the reality I'm in. Likewise, if you're dealing and if you would love a deeper reset, time out from the busyness of your life to just take stock of where you are, where you've come from, and where it is you want to go, I encourage you to check out my retreat that I am doing with the Modern Elder Academy on a beautiful ranch, the Rising Circle Ranch, just outside Santa Fe next February. It's called Courage is Calling, Reset on Your Bravest Life. And it's going to be 4 days of reflection and insight and really life expanding conversations. You'll find notes to that retreat in the show notes, just as you will my book and anything else that I might bring up over the course of this podcast today. So let's get started in how you can beat the overwhelm, how you can tap into your agency, and how you can make just some small changes right where you are right now. So yes, new year, new you. I've written Forbes columns, I've done blog posts, I've done podcasts on this over the year. And yes, I have often said, think big, be bold, be brave. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's awesome. If you have the capacity right now, if you feel inspired to just think really big about a bold goal, more power to you. But the research in behavioral psychology shows that our brains don't change just through big intentions. They change through repetition, through what we practice. You may have read the book called Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg out of Stanford, or you might have read James Clear's book called Atomic Habits. Both of them say that small little tweaks create big results over time. And likewise, I call this training the brave. Courage is a muscle. It is a skill. It's like going to the gym if you haven't been there for a long time. Don't set out to do a spin class or try and lift 100 pounds. If you haven't done much, just start with something small. So I'm going to go to the gym for 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Just do something that isn't going to leave you feeling incredibly sore and laying on the couch for 2 days. Start where you are with what is just a little bit of a stretch for you where you are right now. And likewise, courage isn't built with great, big, bold leaps. It isn't built by burning the boats. It is built in small little moments, in those little decisions, in those little acts of honesty, those little acts of micro bravery and the small choices to take the harder but the better path, the one that feels more true to you, or to say no to an invitation that maybe isn't a big deal, but part of you feels that you need to say yes to because you don't want to disappoint people and you're a people pleaser. Maybe it is just choosing not to outsource your agency to someone else and blame it on someone else or ask someone else, what should I do? And just to choose for yourself. I have shared numerous times the story of me growing up in the Aussie bush, learning to ride horses, and every morning before school and every afternoon after school, going out there to bridle up my horse. And the horse that we won in a raffle called Smokey, because he was the color of smoke, that experience of learning to ride this wild Brumby that went from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds flat was essentially, now I look back on me building up my courage muscles, my resilience muscles, my own agency to choose to be braver than I felt like being, to choose to do the very thing where there was a risk I would be thrown off and left on the ground behind that horse, and often I was. But in hindsight, now that I can look back, I can see how much that commitment I made, that determination I tapped into to learn to ride this wild horse shaped that earlier version of me, helped me to believe I could do hard things. And likewise, I would say to you, if you have ever admired someone who does hard things, who acts with courage, who chooses that path of boldness over timidity, of faith over fear, of being assertive over playing nice and towing the line and fitting in, well, that ability lives in you also. But don't just take it from me. There's some really good science behind this. And one of the things that we know is when we do the things that align to the person we most want to be, we get a little release of dopamine, that feel good chemical that you might get when you go out on a run and you kind of get your blood flowing. It makes it easier to keep going. And in our brains, we know that every time we choose a pathway, we choose to do something that we mightn't feel like doing, it rewires our brains, even in a small, small way, that makes it that little bit easier next time. We get a little bit braver. We feel a little less anxious. And over time, that behavior becomes easier to tap into. It's less of this massively hard thing to do. We also know that momentum beats motivation. You don't always feel motivated, but when you do something consistently, even when you don't feel ready, even when you've got doubts, then it actually builds that momentum over time. I've forgotten the statistic here, but I believe that a plane can use up to 70% of its fuel. Now, if you're an aviation enthusiast, you might correct me here, and please do. Just in getting off the tarmac, just to get airborne. And likewise, when you just keep doing those things, even though you don't feel like doing it, when you're getting out of bed a little bit earlier, just 5 minutes earlier, or you're just putting in that little bit of extra effort, or you're practicing being that little bit more assertive or outgoing or whatever the call to courage is for you, over time, you get to lift off. You get to a point where it's no longer 10 points of effort in for 1 unit of outcome back. I know that when I first started my coaching business, living in Dallas, 4 kids, 5 and under, I just felt like every day I was putting in 100 units of effort and getting very little back. But over time, I got to a point where, I started getting emails, the fruit, the low-hanging fruit started growing everywhere. And it took a long time, quite a long time. But I started where I was with what I had, which wasn't much, but it was a passion, it was a commitment. And over time, that built momentum that led to the bigger results that sometimes people looked at me and said, how'd you get to where you are? I'm like, by putting in a lot of reps, a lot of effort without a lot coming back in those early days. And likewise, our identity, how we see ourselves shapes the actions that we take. But for behavior to shape identity, we have to choose who it is we want to be. Who do you want to be? I wrote about this in the Courage Gap. Decide the kind of person you want to be. There really is no more important decision you can ever make than deciding who it is you want to be. You mightn't feel like you're that person right now, but who is it that you would love to be? To quote Lily Tomlin, I always wanted to be somebody. I should have been more specific. So who is it that you want to be? And then put be before do. Because when you're clear about who it is you want to be, then it gives you more clarity about what it is you need to do, and it helps to galvanize your commitment to doing it. So first do, then believe, because it is in doing that you dissolve all of those little doubts in your head. And I know myself, doubts rise up a lot. I get them all the time, but I have become more practiced, more masterful at just stepping into the doing, even though I have the doubts. And the same is absolutely true for you. And finally, consistency. Consistency compounds. We know that we get shaped by our habits. Our habits shape the person we become. And so even a 1% shift in repeated little things you do every day can really transform your life over time. And often when we look at people that do amazing things, we go, how did they get there? What is the big things they're doing? Well, it's actually the small little things that they do that no one sees that create the big results that everyone wants. And so instead of asking, what's the biggest thing I want to change in 2026? Perhaps ask, what's the smallest action that I can take today that will align with who I want to become? Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Margie, you don't understand. I have had a really hard 2025. I'm in a really difficult season right now. There's a lot of things that aren't going the way I'd like them to go. You're having maybe relationship stress. Maybe there's been massive fallout in some pivotal, very key relationships for you. Maybe you've got enormous job uncertainty. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe you were just in a really difficult season. Well, then I think this is even more important to decide what are the small little things that you're going to do every day that will help you weather this time better, emerge from it better off. You may have heard of Viktor Frankl. He was a psychiatrist who found himself pulled into the evil of the Holocaust. He found himself living in Auschwitz. His wife was murdered. His parents were murdered. His family were murdered. He had to endure the most brutal of conditions. And he said that in those most depraved circumstances, that his ultimate source of power, of purpose, of agency came from choosing how he would show up, how he would just live every day, and that it was in his daily choice to not succumb to despair, to not just let the evil around him keep him from just being who it is he wanted to be. And that it was in those moments that he found the deepest meaning. And he has many wonderful quotes. And if you've never read his book, Man's Search for Meaning, I'll put a link in the show notes because I actually think it's a book every single person on this planet should read. He said, Frankl wrote that everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. His refusal to surrender that freedom was his small daily victory. And his example is a really powerful reminder for all of us whose circumstances are very unlikely to be remotely as awful, as evil, as some might say even hopeless as his, is that we get to choose how we will show up, what we focus on, how we speak to others, the story we tell ourselves. And that can change not only our life, but the life of the people around us. So you get to decide what will be your daily victories in the year ahead. 3 really simple practices for you. 1 really simple practice for you that was in the Courage Gap. And again, I encourage you to read the Courage Gap because it has a lot of insight poured into it. I've poured my heart into it, but just a lot of great nuggets, practical nuggets. And that is to practice the 1 brave minute rule. And I learned the 1 brave minute rule by learning how to hold a plank for the longest minute all day, while I was in a boot camp. And what I learned from that is that all of us can do something hard for 1 brave minute at a time. And when we choose to do something hard for 1 minute, we build strength, we build discipline, we build belief. And so maybe it's 1 minute you're going to have a brave conversation. 1 minute you're going to send an email you've been avoiding. 1 minute you're going to step towards something that's exciting to you. 1 minute can lower the threshold for action, and action rewires your brain for bigger things, for better things. For me this year, I'm going to be practicing being more present because that's not something that has come easily to me. Slowing down, taking a breath, taking a moment, grounding in my body so I can show up for myself and for other people as more of who I want to be. It's not necessarily glamorous. It sure isn't dramatic, but it's mine. And it's going to start with me just being more mindful in the choices that I make. So as we turn the corner into a brand new year, remember this. You don't need to reinvent your life, though, of course, if that's what's calling to you, more power to you. But you do need to decide who it is you want to be and what small choice you will make that can over time create a ripple effect. Start where you are, begin with what you have, trust that small actions, small wins compounded over time will truly create big changes. And as always, here's to you choosing the braver path. Here's to you choosing the path that just resonates with who it is you most want to be and casts a vote for the man, the woman that you have it within you to become. 1 small daily victory at a time. Thanks for listening to the Live Brave podcast. And of course, if you found this helpful, please take a moment to rate it, review it. And if there's someone in your life that you think could just do with a little encouragement, I would be really grateful if you would pass it along. Until next time, live bravely.